Shalom. I'd like to start out by giving all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakach Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect of Israel. This is the Mayim in Atlanta, and I've been thinking about this for a little bit, about how we, as the true biblical Israelites, the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, are standing back on our feet, recognizing who we are, and claiming, taking back our heritage, basically, saying that we are the true people of the Bible. And with that, there are other people, the Edomites, that have been standing in, claiming to be the Lord's people, saying that they're those small hatters over there, saying they're the Lord's people. And then this even extends to the so-called Christians, because they're claiming that they're the ones that are going to receive the promises and blessings of the scriptures through supersessionism or replacement theology. But at the end of the day, they are not the Lord's people, and with that takes away their claim to the land of Israel, because they're in there, these small hatters are there saying that that's their land and that the Lord promised it to them, but they're not the people. And the Bible proves that through prophecy, through just the books in general. They're not under the curses. People make fun of them when the Lord said, not even a dog shall move his tongue against Israel. There's still war. The scripts say, none shall make him afraid, but they're getting bombed currently by Iran, and just ultimately they have no claim to the land, which means that all of the deaths that have occurred since they're there are actually murders, and that the Lord is not on their side with this. He's not going to forgive these murders because they wanted the land. They're not the people. And I just wanted to take a look at that today. And so just put into Google the Israeli claim to the land, and it knows exactly what I'm talking about. But from the AI overview, it says Israel's claim to the land, known as Palestine or the land of Israel, is based on a few key elements: historical and religious ties, a revival of the ancient Jewish nation, and the international community's recognition of this claim. And this is all bogus, because they're not the people. They are Hebrews, but they are Hebrew Edomites. They come through Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. But we'll get into that later. It says here's a more detailed breakdown. So, number one, historical and religious ties. Biblical narrative: the Jewish people hold the land to be a divine gift, promised to their patriarch Abraham and his descendants, in which it went through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They do a lot of this stopping at Abraham because they do trace back to Abraham, but they go through Isaac and then through Esau because these are Edomites. But the promises in the land, the blessings, all go to Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, hence Hebrew Israelites. It says this promise is central to Jewish religious belief and is found in the Torah, particularly the book of Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And so just to show that it goes through Abraham, Isaac, and unto Jacob, this is 2nd Ezra 6 and starting at verse 7. It says, then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? So when is the end of this dominion? It says, or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? Because the prophets were always asking and wondering about when the kingdom of heaven begins, when Israel's kingdom starts. And verse 8, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac. And so they're talking about that blessing from Abraham. It went from Abraham unto Isaac, and then Isaac had these two sons, which it's about to speak of, when Jacob and Esau were born of him. So Isaac had both Jacob and Esau. It says Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, and that came with the blessing as well, and Jacob got the blessing. That is for eternity and for all of his descendants, while Esau got a consolation. Basically, his blessing was a consolation. It was temporary, and with that he got the fatness of the earth, and he would take it through his blessing, the sword, and so through violence, which is how they've done it. And Esau's rulership, when they're in their blessing, would mark the end of the world, and that's currently where we are. Esau's the end of the world. So you look at who is running this world, who's running the banks, who's running the entertainment industry, who's the CEOs of these different corporations, who's high up within the governments of the world, and it points to Amalek. But Amalek is just one small tribe of the whole nation of Esau, or nation of Edom, in which that is the Caucasians, so-called Caucasians, or these Europeans, including the Small Hatters. They're all the same people. People make the claim all the time that the people in the land, those Small Hatters, are just Europeans, but the Europeans are Edomites as well, in which their original land was Mount Seir, which is down in that area, so they do belong there in Mount Seir, but not in the land of Israel, which they've made a claim for, and have brought a lot of war with them just being there in general, because they are people of war, and they've stolen that land, just like they've stolen all the lands that they're in, including Europe. But it says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. We're at the end of the world as well. If you go to, there's a biblical timeline within the scripts of the different kingdoms that would exist. You can see it in Daniel 2, and it's explained as a statue, and then also in Daniel 7, where it's explained as beasts. But they're different kingdoms, and Esau had the bottom half. If you go to the statue, he had the skirt, which were the Greeks, then he had the legs, which were the Romans, and then the feet of miry clay and iron, which is now, it's NATO and the EU, including America. And this marks the end of the world, the end of Esau's world. And then Jacob's world begins as Esau's ends. But getting back to this AI overview, so biblical narrative, they don't fit that because they're just claiming this goes through Abraham. This is the promise is central to Jewish religious beliefs and is found in the Torah, particularly the books of Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And this would make sense if they were the actual biblical Israelites, but they are the biblical Edomites. They have no claim to the land. It's ancient rule for a period in the first millennium BCE. The area was ruled by Jays. This historical presence is seen as a foundation of the modern state of Israel's claim. And with this is around the time that Antipater, the Idumean, was coming into power, which established the Herodians. And so, if they were actually trying to say they're Idumeans, then that would make sense. And so, we're not going to bother that one too much. But going on down, it says continuity of Jayish presence. This condemns them. This shows that they are not the people. And we'll get into the scripts on that. But it says, Jays have maintained a continuous presence in the land, even during periods of external rule, further strengthening their claim to the land. And so we're going to go to Jeremiah 17 and verse 4. Because if they were the true people, this would have happened. Verse 4, 17 and 4. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage. So let's get that word heritage from the etymon online. It says that which may be inherited. So you can even think of land. Heir, inheritance, ancestral estate. Israel is the ancestral estate of the Israelites. It says heirloom, inherit, Latin heir, meaning condition or state transmitted from ancestors. And so the true Israelites discontinued from our heritage. We discontinue from our ancestral estate, but these people are claiming to be there in continuance. Does it say, Jays have maintained a continuous presence in the land, even during periods of external rule, further strengthening their claim to the land. And so Jeremiah 17 and 4, thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue. That says continuous, but this says that the Israelites shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. And so they should have been taken out of that land if they were the people, and taken away from knowing and understanding that they're the Lord's people. That was taken away, but they claim to have been there continuously. Even in 2 Thessalonians, it talks about the falling away, and that's the discontinuing from our heritage. But these people, they claim to have a continuous presence there. That shows that they are not the people and that they have no claim to the land. Thus, these are all murders that have been committed by them. 2. Revival of the ancient nation. The establishment of the modern state of Israel was viewed by many as a revival of the ancient Jewish nation, and the land was seen as their rightful homeland. Except you're not the people. It's so crazy that they put up this lie and they just keep going with it and keep going with it. Establishment of the modern state of Israel was viewed by many as a revival of the ancient Jewish nation. The land was seen as their rightful homeland. Your land is Mount Seir. You're confused. Number 3, in which the establishment, let's go back to that, because the true revival happens here. Ezekiel 37, because there's that discontinuing from our heritage stated in Jeremiah 17 and 4. But then you get to Ezekiel 37, And this is the Lord waking up the house of Israel. Ezekiel 37:11. Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones, these are the dry bones, because they're dry from having no understanding or knowledge of who they are, who their true heritage is. It says, Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. So when did this happen to them? When did Jeremiah 17:4 happen to these people, to these small hatters? And when did Ezekiel 37, the whole chapter, happen to them? This is the whole house of Israel. When were you dry bones? It says, Behold, they say, Our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. So these things had to have happened before the return to Israel, to the true land, in which they were just trying to say they're doing it on their own and with their Balfour Declaration. But the Lord was going to do these things. But first, you would have had to discontinue from your heritage. Instead, it's saying you've had a continuous presence there. And then you'd also have to be awoken to the fact that you are Israel. When was your great awakening? When did this happen? It didn't, because you're not the people. You are the Edomites who have stolen that land unto yourselves. Actually, I want to get something else, because the Lord said he's going to set us back in that land himself. So Isaiah 14:1, For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel, not Edom, not Esau. He's choosing Israel and set them in their own land. So the Lord would be setting us back in the land. And the strangers, that goes into Gar, shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And these are other Israelites, these strangers. Verse 2, And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And so where are your slaves in the land of Israel? I didn't see you coming in with slaves when you went in 1948. There's no talk of that. When did this happen? When did the Lord do this? Because these people came in on airplanes, when the Lord's really he's gonna deliver us via the clouds, via the chariots of Israel. Salvation of Israel. Look up, for your salvation is not nigh. The Lord's going to take us up before the destruction, and none of what these people, these Idumeans, are saying is making any sense relative to the Bible, because these are lies that they have perpetrated onto the earth. Where are your slaves that were your oppressors? It doesn't exist, because you are the oppressor. And this is you, that's speaking of you, your people, going into slavery at the end of World War III, which is very soon. Verse 3, or not verse 3, but number 3, international recognition. The international community has recognized the Jewish people's claim to the land, which the true Israelites will only need the Lord to recognize, because he gave us that land. This is particularly through the UN partition plan in 1947, which proposed dividing Palestine into Arab and Jewish states. The establishment of Israel in 1948 was also a recognition of this claim. And going back to the scripts and into Ezekiel 36 and verse 5, because this is your Balfour Declaration here. Ezekiel 36 and 5, therefore thus saith the Lord power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea, because the heathen have divided our land. You got the Palestinians there claiming to be the ancient Philistines, but they really go back to Ishmael. Those are Arabs. They're not Hamites. And then you also have Idumea in the land, who are the small hatters, whose Balfour Declaration put them there. And they're already there. You just saw they've had a continuous presence. It says, which have appointed my land into their possession. That appointment was through the Balfour Declaration. With the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. So these Edomites, the scripts show that you're the ones in the land currently. You're not the Israelites. There would be no more war. Nobody would be making the Israelites afraid. No dog's tongue would rise against the Israelites. It said you have anti-S laws to protect you and try to make you a victim. But the Lord wouldn't even allow anyone to talk about Israel once Israel's back in the land. Instead, people hate you. Rightfully so. You're a heritage thief. Joel 3 and 2, because talked about how in Ezekiel 36 and 5, how you appointed the land unto yourself. Well, that appointment unto yourself is bringing you to the valley of Yehoshaphat, and it's coming soon, because you appointed that land unto yourself, and because you touched the apple of the Lord's eye, in which you small hatters, owned the ships that the Negroes came over on, the actual Jays. You own those ships, and you're going to have to pay for that. The Lord's telling you that this is why this war is about to start. Joel 3 and 2. I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Yehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people. So it's coming down to the valley of the Lord's judgment. And that word plead goes into judge. It says, with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel. The Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as are scattered, because we've been scattered to the four corners of the earth. There's even going to be small hatters that through their father's lineage trace back to actual Israelites. But for the most part, you are the Edomites. You are Amalek. It says, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Parted his land. It's parted by the Hamites and the Ishmaelites and the Edomites, as well as other nations. And you scattered us throughout the four corners of the earth through your slave trades. But that's why World War III is about to start, because you took the land and you scattered the true people of the Lord. Going back to this AI overview. Number 4, it says Jayish development and settlement. Jayish settlement and development of the land, particularly in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, is also considered a key element of their claim. The Lord said we wouldn't see that land anymore, according to the curses. And let's go to the curses, actually. We'll end it off there. Deuteronomy 28. Because these would be on us for a sign and for a wonder. Salaki, I didn't know I was going to get here, but let's get sign, wonder. Deuteronomy 28 and 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. These are the curses that the true Israelites would be under. And that includes the scattering, that includes being the tail and not the head, that includes being lent to but not lending. And we all know that you use usury within your banks and are doing the lending. But the scripts say that wouldn't be. Where is that one? We'll get that one and end it. You are becoming that astonishment and proverb and byword, but the curses aren't truly on you. Oh, Deuteronomy 28 and 44. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. You are currently in that head position. It is vanishing quickly. You're coming out of it because you're losing your power, and these curses are transferring on to you, but you're still in the head position, which shows that you are not the people of the Lord. There is still war going on. That shows that you are not the people of the Lord, which that's what will end it off. Isaiah 2, and we'll go to verse 4. Isaiah 2 and 1. The word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. So all 12 tribes were all 12 tribes. You only claim to be of Judah. Some say Levi or Levi. Some say Benjamin, but you're only speaking to the southern kingdom. Where's the northern kingdom? Where are the other tribes? Strike. Verse 2. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain, so the government of the Lord's house, shall be established in the top of the mountains, so over all other governments, in which they're just going to be put down in the first place. And it says, and shall be exalted above the hills of the smaller governments, and all nations shall flow unto it. That is also not happening. People are adverse or try to stay away from Israel. But in the kingdom, all nations are going to flow unto Israel. That's not happening currently. Strike 2. You're not the people. It says, and many people shall go and say, come ye and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the power of Jacob. He will teach us of his ways. You're not teaching anyone of your ways. You try to put up walls and barriers for people to not learn your ways. You try to keep it to yourself. Strike 3. You are not the people. And he will walk in his paths, for out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. If you were actually the people, we'd all be wearing tiny little hats and reading your Talmud. But none of this is happening because you're not the people. Verse 4, and he shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares. And so you'd also have Yahushua back. You'd have King David back. Where are they? Where's this rebuke on the people? Because it says that the Lord would give his men power over the nations, and they shall break them with a rod of iron. You're not doing that. You are hammering through Babylon the Great, because that's the hammer of the earth, but you're not doing it like the scriptures say. It says, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. In this, we were in Joel 3 earlier. It's the exact opposite of the language there, because it's telling them to beat their plowshares into swords and their pruning hooks into spears because war is coming. But this is after the war. This is after Joel 3 in the valley of Yehoshaphat, which you're about to be brought down into. But this is after, in which will be a time of peace. That's what it's saying. There's not going to be any more weapons of war. There will be peace, and that is not occurring. You're getting blown up right now. You're not the people. Strike 5. It says, nation shall not lift up sword against nation. There's war. We're about to have a bigger war. We're in that time of war. It says, neither shall they learn war anymore. You're not the people. You have no claim to that land. You shouldn't be there. And it's already too late. You're about to be judged for it. And you're going to go to the absolute bottom of society. You're going to be less than dirt, less than spit, less than any beast of the field. You're not even, you were the lowest form of any organism on this planet. You stole our heritage, and the saints are about to take the kingdom. Yahushua is about to return and take his rightful place over the earth. He will be King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and you will be dirt of dirt. You are not the people, you're just liars. Terrible people. But Lord willing, that was edifying. Hope you can see these people have no claim whatsoever to the land, and they're going down. I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the great millstone. Shalom to the elect of Israel. Shalom.